Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to another POV review. Today we're going to be checking out this Audi E-Tron 55 Quattro, which means it's an electric car. It's a pretty big SUV, as you can see. It's sporting 20-inch 255 tires all around, and it's a massive car. This thing weighs in at about 2,600 kilograms if I'm not mistaken. And it has also a pretty big boot. Now don't mind the mess that is in there right now. It's power operated. As you can see, pretty big trunk space. But that's the nice thing. This car was designed from the ground up by Audi to be an electric car, which means that you have a lot of space. And also in the rear, let's take a seat. Seating position is pretty good. Currently sat behind myself, and as you can see, have quite a bit of leg room actually. Now also the upside of it being an electric car is that it means that it has no central tunnel, which means that sitting with 3 passengers you have quite a bit of space. Now this is all nice Alcantara leather interior, which is the upgraded S-Line interior, so you get a bit more sporty seats, and yeah, it's pretty nice. So let's take a look. You saw the back, let's go to the front. So let me pop the front. There's not a lot of stuff there. No engine, of course, being electric. So let's open this up. As you can see, some electrical components there for the car. And there's also a little bit of front space. You can keep an extra charger there if you want. Now this car has the optional mirror cameras, so they are pretty interesting. I'll show you those in a bit. So the interior, nice and sporty seats. Being S-Line, it's a bit more sporty. Seats are pretty nice. So let's jump in. Okay. All right, guys, in the interior of the E-Tron, you get these camera mirrors. They're pretty interesting. So instead of them being just regular mirrors, you have cameras in them, and you get the screen on the left here, which I haven't gotten used to it yet during my time driving this car, and it's yeah, it's weird. You probably can get used to it, but not for me. I personally would have gone just with the regular mirrors, which is also an option. The interior of this car is pretty nice. So you have 3 big screens, one in front of you, which is your well, your digital cockpit, which you can show some information on, like for instance the positions where you're at. You can change the view for the dials to be bigger and the map to be a bit smaller. And you can click through these and look at your average consumption and that kind of stuff. Now this screen, it's the main screen which you use to operate most of the features that the car has. So navigation, also has Apple CarPlay if you have your phone connected either wirelessly or by cable. And this is the climate control panel, which is with haptic touch. So if you click a button, let me see if I can let you guys hear it. You get some sort of feedback through the button. So it is touchscreen, but it's touchscreen with some haptic feedback on it. This car also has the 360-degree cameras, which is cool. And you also have a 3D mode, which allows you to see what is around the car by projecting, well, all the cameras that it registers and then putting it as a 3D model. Can be useful when you're parking close to, let's say, an edge of a road and you want to see how far you have before you curb your wheels. You can actually see it over here. So let's hop out of that and let's take her for a drive, shall we? All right, gear selector is over here, foot on the brake, pull towards you, and it goes into drive, as you can see on screen. You can also change the driving modes by clicking the button over here. You can switch all sorts of modes if you want. Now this car is by standard fitted with hydraulic suspension, which means that it can raise and it can lower. It can also change the firmness if you want. And it's nice when you're going over a bad road. You can just put it into comfort and it rides over it pretty nicely. So like I said, in drive right now, so let's go. Right, pulling away silently with all 408 brake horsepower in boost mode. So this is the 55, which means that you get a 90 kilowatt-hour battery pack, which is yeah, it's pretty huge. And it also gets paired with 408 brake horsepower and I think 550 newton meters of torque, which is a lot. It is, well, it will manage to propel the car from 0 to 60 in about 5.6 seconds when you're in boost mode. Now I say when you're in boost mode, by default this car goes a little bit over 6 6 seconds to 100 kilometers. But in boost mode, which means you have to put the transmission in sport, pull it towards you, it goes to sport, and then you have boost mode available. So you get all the 408 brake horsepower. This car weighing in at 2,600 kilograms, it's quite a heavy car, but it still manages to get the car up to speed quite nicely. So if I punch it here now, still very quick. As you can see, you get up to speed very quickly, but it does mean if you drive a lot at higher speeds, your battery will depreciate quite a bit quicker. So the range is about, what I've noticed, about 320 kilometers, which is all right for day-to-day use. It doesn't really come close to what Tesla managed to get. I think if you get the top-of-the-line Model S version, you get about 500 kilometers. So for this, Audi claims, I think, 420 kilometers or something like that. I've personally not been able to get that far, sadly enough, but yeah, it's still 300 kilometers for day-to-day use. You should be good. Also, it has regenerative braking, which you can activate more by using the pedals behind the steering wheel. So there's 2 modes on the regenerative braking, and you can just cycle through them, and when you take your foot off the gas, it will use the regenerative brakes, well, the electric motors, to bring you to a standstill. Now there is, well, you can set it up to either be automatic, so it will use the cameras in front to change the amount of recuperation that that you get when slowing down, or you can change it in the system to be manual, which means that you only use the pedals to change the amount of regenerative braking that it has. So let's see if I can jump onto some nicer roads, and we'll take her for a proper spin. So I'll meet you guys back when I found some highway, I guess, to start off with. All right, we're just about to get onto the highway here, and we can see what this thing can do. It's really quick, even considering its weight. Let's hope this caravan in front of us, it will go straight, or RV, however you want to call it. And we're waiting, of course, for the traffic light. Many traffic lights here in the Netherlands, sadly enough. So like I mentioned before, 90 kilowatt hour battery pack. This car is able to charge with DC fast charging, I think at 150 kilowatts, which is pretty quick. Now let's get the wheel straight and punch it. Lots of way to go along, but it gets up to speed nicely. Of course, being an electric car, you have all the torque instantly, the full 550 newton meters of torque. Now these mirrors, like I said, they're cameras, take some getting used to, but it's nice. It has the blind spot monitor built into the little screen, and it also, when you, for instance, turn on your blinker, it changes the screen a bit, so you have less dead space in your mirrors, which should make it a bit safer. This car is also equipped with some safety features by Audi by default. Now, strangely enough, this thing isn't spec'd out with adaptive cruise control. Of course, it being an Audi, you can select many different options if you want. However, for this car, the mirrors that were 1,500 euros, they were picked from the list, but not adaptive cruise control. Now I do think that in a car like this, you should definitely have adaptive cruise control, because it just makes your ride so much more comfortable. Comfortable it is though, it's pretty nice. Of course, the air suspension definitely helps with that. You can just ride over bumps without any issues, even if it's, let's say, an uneven road surface that you're on. But no adaptive cruise control. Bit of a downside on my end, but hey, sometimes you just gotta pick the options that you want. Now the sticker price on this car is 100,000 euros, which is a hell of a lot of money. And even for that, it's not even fully optioned out, or it's not the top model. I think there's also a S model above this, and that's even quicker to 60. I think that's 4.6 seconds for the top of the line model, but I think that starts at 120,000 euros. So you're free with Audi, as always, to option this thing out just the way you want to, and you can bring a lot of money. You can add a lot of options on there to make this car just the right car for you. Now it's in black. Black exterior, not my favorite. I'm not a huge fan of black on cars. because it's pretty annoying to keep it clean, as I've found out myself during the years of driving cars that are black. Now they also had this cool launch color. I'll see if I can add a picture on that in screen. It was this bluish kind of color, which I think looked pretty cool. Now you also can have some orange details added, or I think orange brake calipers, and of course you have here and there the E-Tron logo on the side, for instance, is orange, and you can just add those options if you want to, of course at a bigger price, as Audi is pretty familiar with. Also nicely heated seats, so you can be nice and comfy in the winter times if you want to. And being an electric car, you can also precondition it from your mobile phone using the Audi app. And you can, for instance, when you get up in the morning and you want to make sure that your car is nice and warm before you get in, you just turn it on maybe 10-15 minutes before you get in for your drive, and you'll have nice warm interior, so no more scraping the window with the ice scraper. So that's one of the creature comforts that you get with an electric car. It's also usually available on plug-in hybrids. Now this is Audi's first proper electric car. They of course very recently actually introduced the E-Tron GT, I think is the right name. I think it sports the same battery pack and the same motors, but it's not an SUV, it's just a sedan, which finally there's a proper sedan. Of course you also have Tesla, I shouldn't forget about those, but except for Tesla, most other cars get these crossover types that are EVs. I'm not a huge fan of crossovers, just give me a nice station wagon or a sedan and I'm pretty happy myself. Audi did also have I think the Audi R8 E-Tron a few years back, which was their attempt of making an electric car. Never really sold that well, I think. Of course, it being an R8, it's a bit more of a special car, so it's not made for mass production, that. So let's make a left on this road and see where that car goes. He goes straight, perfect. All right, let's go to the left. I want to see if I can do a quick 0 to 60 time in this. So let's get out of this village and then puncture to 100 kilometers an hour or to 60 miles per hour. So let's get her to a standstill, put her into boost mode, which she's already at. And if you just brake and then full gas. And that's 100. Really quick considering its weight. That's the funny thing about electric cars. Even if you have a bit more of a basic electric car, it can still do 0 to 60 in these mad amounts of time. So yeah, that's fun thing about electric driving. Now personally, I'm a much bigger fan of internal combustion engines, just the noise, the emotion that you may get with one of those cars. So just a little bit earlier today, I was driving passenger in a Porsche Cayman 718 GTS, and the massive amount of difference that those cars are compared to this, it's not something that you can compare, even though the 0 to 60 times they're not far off from each other, but just the emotion you get from a proper combustion engine always gets me going a lot better than it does with electric cars. However, it is the future electric cars, so I hope to see many more sporty electric cars in the future. But as you can see, this thing still gets up and goes. Handling wise, it's heavy. Of course, like I said, 2,500 kilograms, you can feel it. If you chuck it into a corner, you can feel the massive amounts of weight that you're carrying. I think this is the heaviest car I've ever driven, so that I think also says a lot. But that's of course because of the batteries, and it's an SUV, so it can be heavy. Regular SUVs, I think they're 2,000 kilograms maybe, but still, this is just a little bit above there. Being an Audi, nice virtual cockpit with Google integration, so you can see your satellite navigation on it. Of course, Apple CarPlay is also available for you, either wirelessly or through a wire. I'm not sure about Android Auto. But Apple CarPlay, I've noticed that when you use it wirelessly, it basically creates a Wi-Fi hotspot in the car that your phone connects to, and it uses that for CarPlay. And it's not the most stable thing. So before I was using wireless CarPlay, it kept cutting out every now and again. So I switched around to a cable, and that has been a lot more stable. Now also no keyless go on this. I think it was also an option through Audi, but by default you didn't get it, of course. You always have to pay extra for those kinds of options, which is a bit of a shame. But in general, nice car. Especially when you drive this on a daily basis. If you don't live that far away from your work, or your daily commute is no further than, let's say, 250, 300 kilometers, you should be fine with the range that it has. I do have to say that I really like the silenceness of this car. So when you're driving on the highway, it's very well insulated, and the only thing you really hear are the tires and this little hum of the electric motors. Also at lower speeds it produces an exterior sound, which is mandatory in the EU. I'm not sure about other countries, but it makes it so that pedestrians can see you and hear you coming when you're sneaking up on them silently. So for comfort wise, nice daily commute, nice to drive around the city and also on the highway. So the downside of driving this car on the highway is that your consumption skyrockets, which is what EVs are not very good at, driving on the highway at higher speeds. So maybe 100 kilometers is fine, but as soon as you go a lot over, it gets a lot worse. So let's see what my consumption has been. Right now it's averaging 27.6 kilowatts per 100 kilometers. Which is not that economical. I think Tesla does about 17 or 16 kilowatts per 100 kilometers. That's a lot better. So in the last 30 kilometers I've been driving, I've managed to do 27 kilowatts per hour, which is all right. Long time, so 23,000 kilometers, it's then also 27 kilowatts per hour. Wrong button, that is. Nice thing is you still get proper buttons for the steering wheel, which is a nice extra to have, or I think it should be pretty standard. So yeah, that's pretty much going to be it for this this short review, guys. So thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, be sure to let me know. If you liked the video, of course, leave a thumbs up, and if you're not yet subscribed, be sure to do so, because there's going to be plenty of more cars to come in the future, either electric EVs or just regular gas engines. So be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.